The Boardroom conversation, how CXOs shape AI strategy, will discuss how executive alignment turns AI from isolated initiatives into organization-wide impact, and if it results in a real competitive advantage. So I'm going to invite our panelists to come up. So when you hear your name, please make your way to the stage. Our moderator will sit at the seat closest to me. So first up, we have Mikhail Lisovich, Chief Data Officer at Redwood Logistics. Welcome, Mikhail. We now have Svi Gal, CTO and Head of Enterprise Technology Services at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. Welcome, Svi. Henry Thierry is CTO at Nokia Technology Standards. Welcome, Henry. And David Fapohunda is Managing Director at Barclays. David, welcome. And this session will be moderated by Douglas Hegley, Chief Digital Officer at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Take it away, Douglas.
How are we doing? Is this on? Excellent. Welcome, everyone. We've got half an hour to talk about a subject that needs at least 6 hours, so we'll see what we can do here. What we want to do in this short session is really talk about experiences working with executives and boards during a time where technology changes are very fluid and somewhat unpredictable. Try to discuss how we align AI strategy and implementation with core business needs rather than how many of you have been told we need an AI strategy, right? Like, we don't need an AI strategy. We have business strategy. Let's use AI to support that. So I want each of our panelists to do a really quick self-introduction. We've already heard your name and your position. Can you now add to that? What is your specific role when it comes to AI strategy or implementation in your organization? Let's just go right down the line.
Fantastic. Hello. Yeah, so hi, Mikhail Lisovich, Redwood. And my role is all things data, run a vertically integrated team, all the way from AI strategy to data science, ML, analytics, database, instrumentation. Right? And so my role is to first align with the board, align horizontally across executives, and then to make sure that that works up and down within my organization.
Hi, my name is Svi Gal, and my role in AI is to build the infrastructure that enables it, as well as work with our business partners and our committees to actually decide what we're going to use it for.
Hi, I'm Henry. So I'm the CTO Nokia. Well, it used to be Nokia Technologies, now it's Technology Standards, one of the BUs of Nokia. And my responsibility is all the innovation, but also in AI, basically AI both in our products, which are the innovations that we do, and also then AI to improve the performance and the processes of the company. And I also sit in the AI board and strategy board of the whole Nokia across the different business units.
Good morning, everyone. David Fapohunda. Barclays invited me to join them to help transform the bank from front to back to be really digital. And as part of that, that was really defining business outcomes over a multi-year strategy on changing operations tech and how we interact with our customers. One of the first things that we identified was we needed to build out a more data-centric business model, better CX implementation of how we operate in terms of CX journeys and so forth. So my role was really to develop that strategy, execute that strategy, and then enable the growth of that strategy over multiple years.
Thanks, everyone. Let's talk about the board. How are you seeing alignment between what the board is seeing?
Exuberance with real practicable metrics. So the way I do it, I'll get to maybe the constructive ways of doing it, is A, to tie it into overall business metrics. So how is this project contributing ultimately to the bottom line? And then to have touch points, to set touch points which are more than the quarterly board meeting, and actually develop relationships with each of the board members as much as they want to be involved in inter-board meeting demos and check-ins, right? And that serves for us to get to know each other, for them to not be surprised during, right, which manages expectations both up and down, and for them to, hopefully, by the time each of the board presentations rolls around, to be a supporter, right? Because they're in a position of being a coach and mentor, to go back to that previous presentation, right? And hopefully they will all be coming in from a position of support.
I like it. I like that there's a managing up aspect of what you're talking
yes.
about, right? And so we were sort of admonished to be coaches 10 minutes ago. In a way, you're coaching your superiors, which is, I think, a sort of ubiquitous challenge of any technology leader anyway. They see what we do often as magical. Now AI is even doubly magical. The exuberance definitely worries me. I'm interested to hear about shaping AI strategy. So whether your board is exuberant or not, and Henry, you talked about identifying personalities and perspectives and working maybe individually in small groups in that way. Let's turn it now into sort of business strategy. Like, you've got the board at least enough behind you that they're not going to stop you. How do you now start implementing? And I like how practical you've all been. So who's got a really good practical story about controlling strategy, driving strategy with AI in your organization? Go ahead, Svi.
So I can start. As you can imagine, of course, with all the discussions about in the board, one of the questions that comes every quarter, or demand, invest more in AI. To which I asked the question, why? So what do you mean why? Everybody else does it. I said, well, that's a stupid answer. If I would answer this way, you will not like it. So basically what we decided to do was we created a list of about 110 different opportunities where AI could actually make a difference. We divided them between front office, middle office, back office, and research in our case. We sorted it by the things that are easier to do with the greatest impact first and then down. And then we basically told the board, choose 5 that you want us to start with. After a day and a half of deliberations, they chose 28, to which I said, that must be me. I'm a foreigner. I just came off the boat, my accent, 5. So we chose 5, we started to do that, and the results were good, and then we did another 15, another, etc. But while supporting full democratization of AI across the organization, the one request that I had was that every initiative has to have an outcome, an ROI. Now, the ROI could be financial. I can give you an example. About 5 years ago, before GenAI, etc., we decided to outsource our level 1 support. But rather than outsource it to a vendor, we outsourced it to conversational AI. At the time, the average wait time was 42 minutes. The abandon rate was about 27.5%. Today, our wait time is less than 1 minute. We have basically 0 abandon rate, and our cost is 35% less. So that's a case. It's actually working. And so that's a financial ROI. But for us, again, being a nonprofit and being in cancer research and treatment, the usage of AI in the labs, today it's about 70% of our labs are using AI, both for drug development as well as other stuff. We actually could show that using AI with digital twin and others could save several years in the development of a new treatment. So that's not a financial ROI per se, but it is an ROI. There is an outcome. In our case, we basically counted by saving lives. So, but that's the requirement is, don't tell me that you feel that this is going to be a good thing to do. I'm not your therapist. Show me that there is an outcome or an ROI, then we're actually going to do it.
I think that that's the best conversation to have, how many lives you can save. I think I wish I could use that. But the reality I have faced is that I'm in a heavily regulated environment, being in financial services. And so the board are really stewards to ensure the health and the safety and the soundness of the business. So when we think about our strategy started off with what we committed to the market. We committed to return X billion dollars to the investors. We committed to improve our ROTE and the cost of income ratio. So every use case associated with AI had to be tied to that overall commitment that the CEO made to the street. And because of that lineage of direct impact to the business outcome, it allowed for people to get on board, to buy in. Okay, this makes sense. Now, where comes the stewardess? How are you going to implement this and do it in a way that it protects the bank, protects our customers, and ensures that the regulators feel that we are in control and in command? And that, in our environment, was the next priority. And so many of the board members actually have their own offsites, associations, and meet together to talk about what kinds of priorities they have and how to think about these kinds of changes and transformations. And in one of those sessions, we were invited and we understood and learned what they were being taught and what are the red flags they were looking for when people were presenting to them about these ambitious plans. An example of the red flags that they had were what were the risk metrics that are going to now be introduced to the risk management framework to measure how well their models and the effectiveness of this. The next was, how are we going to ensure that there's the right level of understanding and education to really utilize, because you don't want to build the tool. And so they were giving examples to the board on questions to ask as people were presenting. And then the last thing was really about when we do have these kinds of implementations, how do we reinvest? What is the outcome that's going to be realized from these? And is that reinvestment going to enable future growth, or is it going to enable us to become more efficient with how we progress in terms of the services and products we offered? So CX improvement, risk reductions, and so forth. Those were the kinds of questions that the board members were learning about to look for when they had these board presentations. And so when we came to there, one of our strategy was tied to the ultimate business outcome, understand what the questions and top of mind concerns are that happen across all boards, not just ours, but across all boards, and incorporate that into the strategy execution.
So if I can add to both, because there's this KPI thing which I really relate to, and I totally, being who I am in technology or whatever, building this thing, and also your regulatory. So, but a different point of regulatory. So for a global company, you have the headache of EU acts, AI Act on XYZ, and any big company will react to that regardless how sensible it is or it isn't, and moving on. But I always call this AI stuff more of like, you should always listen to the Phil Collins song, Land of Confusion. Because there's such a confusion typically in multiple different levels of implementing the AI strategy, what's going on. So I categorize it in 3 different ways in my world, and actually in probably many, at least technology company worlds is one. First, there's a level of AI which is improving the processes, then efficiency and productivity of the company. And that's what we hear about like a lot in general. I mean, employees are gone, processes are simplified, you don't need consultants anymore, at least you don't need the sort of minions on the consultants because McKinsey, because they are, sorry if there's any McKinsey guys here, but or BCG or Bain, it doesn't matter. So that's one thing. Actually, the executive level, I mean, the executive board of the company, like I know is interested in this one because it's an efficiency and a product, but the board doesn't give a damn. Because, I mean, basically, it's just a regular productivity thing, and okay, you can say that I'm using AI and going forward. Now, in a company, most of the technology companies, but take Nokia as an example, we use AI in products. We build products. You hear about AI-enabled 6th generation networks or AI compression or whatever. And we've been using AI for a while, for a long time. But I mean, also nowadays the modern, what we call modern AI, generative AI or whatever this is used in different type of network services, management, and all that one. And that's like a sort of a business as usual, but you lead this by the experts, and your KPIs are related with the products and whatever performance you have in products, in radio networks, different performance measures that you technically would like, and that's one. The third one is the most complex, and then, by the way, the board is sort of marginally interested in this one, because it's like if you're not doing good products and you get bad feedback and your competitors are being in a field where the competitors are very publicly listed or whatever, you're not doing well. The third is the most interesting one, and it's the one why initially when Gen AI came out, in my opinion, like Google and others got really worried, and there was a big hassle on this one, is that the AI actually will disrupt the business model or the valuation model. And in Google's case, it's, for example, search and all of that. So for our case, that is related to, for example, how the standardization process is working in wireless and creating IP, which is then licensed. But if that process is using both in the evaluation phase and speed of AI and generative AI, and then at the same time in creating those patterns and generative AI, the whole dynamics changes to be, I call it like sort of flash boys moment of wireless. So, you have the algorithmic trading, you get instabilities in the system and everything like that. That is the thing that the board is very interested in. Because it's basically the fundamentals, even if it's not happening this year or next year, it can be fundamentally take the business away. And that's where I lose most of my sleep of the night as a CTO, because it means that some of the foundations that we are doing are changed by the AI as a process. Otherwise, they can be handled easily.
Got it. Mikhail, I want to give you a moment too. And then if we've got a couple of minutes, happy to take some questions from the floor. So think of your brilliant question while Mikhail gives us his insights on his sort of implementation strategy.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right. There's a lot of really good ideas, a lot of really good frameworks. I think I will add just a lot of times, right? You want to come at it from an ROI perspective, from a strategic perspective, but in onboarding the board, various new stakeholders, you come to the kind of the unbridled enthusiasm, right? And you have to answer the why. And in particular, I've seen a lot of, hey, I'm excited about this new technology or this iteration of Gemini. Why don't we put it in and see what we can do for it? Right. And one way that I and my team have handled it is during brainstorming meetings or strategy meetings to actually abstract away from AI, from the particular implementation of it, from even what it is and how are you going to build it, what cloud, and just think of it as this new disruptive resource, a resource for disruption or just a resource for scaling. So, for example, you get infinite tech support, or you get infinite junior developers. They will make mistakes, but they can be handed assignments, and you can actually scale them. And what that tends to do, right, is to get past the initial, hey, wouldn't it be cool if, to actually thinking about the business problem, to ROI, right, and which one of those three concept areas it falls into, and then hopefully towards a more practical solution initiative.
Thank you so much. I saw one question here. There's one over there. Now everyone has a question. You had your hand up first.
Thank you so much for all the great insights. One of the conversations that I keep getting with my clients is countries are looking at AI sovereignty. Now, from an enterprise standpoint, how are enterprises planning to address that part? And how are enterprises looking at not only just controlling the IP from being diffused through the open use of AI tools, but also to protect and control that, right? So just wanted your views on that part.
Thank you. Welcome.
I think the way we think about it is the model is less of the IP than our internal data. it's hard for our competitors to get our internal data. And one of the greatest costs we've actually invested in is getting our data right, and then also bringing it together so that it's easily accessible for all, the democratization, sorry, long word for me to say, of the data, and enabling everyone to use it and build the IP on top of it, but protecting it and keeping it within the organization. I've spoken to others in other industries. That's really where the crown jewels are on a day-to-day. And I know I'm in a CDO forum, so I'm not really saying it because of that, but that's the way that a lot of companies are thinking about it.
So we have, of course, well, depending on which part of the business unit you're talking about, the Nokia, but there's a huge problem of course, the basic idea of whether you're flowing your IP somewhere, especially if you're in a licensing business, like technology standards is. But actually, it's a hassle. It also delays innovation in a big company because we have our own versions running on Nokia GPTs, and because you are not allowed to use the company data with the general platforms. But it's the same thing that we already had, like in the cloud. So it's not different than doing that. But the real problem is truly that I know this will not be very popular if somebody's doing here AI stuff. AI will be commoditized. So actually the coding and everything and the platform will be commoditized. So the only differentiation aspect that you have is your access to the data, whether you generate it yourself or you're able to access to that one. And the controlling in that is one of the most key aspects that one need to do in the future.
Thank you so much. I've been given the timing warning, so we're going to have to stop. I will say, however, there's a break. There's a session coming right after us. Please stay for that. Then there's a break. We'll be here. We're happy to continue the conversation. If you're sticking around for lunch, seek us out. Will you join me in thanking our panelists, and we'll move on to the next?